Hey everyone, Decav13 here, and welcome back to some more Let's Play Fate Hollow Ataraxia. Alright, so everything's now in place for our showdown with Bazette. We have, gotten Lancer's cooperation, so we're ready to go. So should be at night. We just have to go to the church, I believe. Just by ourselves. We finally met on the hill road leading towards the church. Lancer kept his promise.
Yo, nanda, 時間よりちょい早いじゃねえか。
His jokes might be casual, but his armor isn't. It was half a year ago that I last saw him in full battle array. Ah, that's right. It's already been half a year since the war ended.
それでどう戦うんだ？相手の戦法は知ってるって言ってたけど、対策は立ってるのか？
Stopping the as of yet unseen master's trump card, Fragorak, is the key to this battle.
いや、フラガラックは封じられねえ。ありゃよくできた迎撃砲具だ。まあ正直に戦えばまず負ける。
So we gotta fight dirty then.
こと切り札の出し合いなら、フラガラックは最強の一つと言っていい。
So Lancer says. There's no way to defeat Fragorak. That thing is a missile that reacts to the enemy's trump card and is released when a clash occurs. Thus, to defeat Bazette, one must not use one's own noble phantasm. If you restrain your own trump card, Fragorak's power will be effectively halved.
それだけ？
それだけ。こっちが宝具さえ使わなけりゃ、フラガラックは波の宝具だ。まあ、向こうは好きに切り札を使えるんで、宝具なしじゃちときついんだが。
The look in Lancer's eyes tells me that there's no way he would lose with this strategy. Come to think of it, amateur magic and regular ranged attacks, like arrows and knife throwing, won't even scratch him. His combat skill is also superior to Bazette's. Should he fight consistently, victory should not be a problem. However...
あの女とは宝具で蹴りをつける。すぐに済むから、お前は離れて様子を見てろ。
Fragorak is undefeatable. Despite this fact, Lancer still rose to the sword's challenge. We climb up the hill towards the makeshift arena. The moonlight is dim and my eyes cloud a little when I look up. The moon is dark tonight, or perhaps the stars are close. In the void of the night where one can touch the darkness with a stretch of the hand, there are two figures awaiting our arrival. No longer knowing how many times this had occurred before, the Lady Magus, followed by the Dark Shadow, Avenger, fixes her stare onto the enemy as always. As if seeing a ghost, her sight becomes transfixed onto Lancer's figure. Lancer pays no attention to the Magus. With his index finger, he estimates the distance to his foe. 1, 2, 3, 4. The distance is about 10 meters. He steps into throwing range and points the tip of his spear to the ground.
エオロ、ニード、アンスール、イン。
Was that some sort of spell? A square with a rune at each corner appears, but it doesn't feel like magic at work. Not moving a step away from his position, Lancer swings his spear once in the direction of his opponent. Your move. No names are exchanged. The battle's aura speaks for itself.
Avenger. あれはなんだ?
Bazette asks the Shadow.
何ってサーバントだよ。一目瞭然じゃないか。
そんなはずはない。あんなサーバントは今までいなかった。あれは何のサーバントだ、アベンジャー。セイバーでもない、アーチャーでもない、ライダーでもキャスターでもアサシンでもない。
So what are the two that are left?
あれは
それこそ一目瞭然だ。なあマスター。あの獲物を見てまだ何もわからないのか?
The Shadow cackles. But now, the Lady Magus has lost all her fighting spirit. Gazing at the enemy in front of her, she is about to burst into tears, not even sure why herself. Then Lancer's cold words pierce her heart.
おい、今からあんたを殺すわけだが。
She lifts her fist as if she is afraid. Her resolve is completely gone.
待ってください。私はあなたと戦う理由はない。あなただって私と戦う理由は。
あるだろう。あんたは聖杯戦争に勝つために来た。サーバントを全て倒すまで戦いは終わらない。あんたは今俺と殺し合うためにここにいる。
The shadow laughs. A smile that says, "That's right."
違う。私はあなたとは戦わない。そうだ、あなたとは戦わない。あなたとは戦わない。あなたとは戦わない。だってあなた私のこと知ってる？
知らねえよ。あんたみたいな負け犬に覚えはない。
A simple sentence. Her knees nearly give out like a puppet with its strings cut.
ではあなたは私の敵か？
Not the support of strings, but her own will keeps her standing.
そうだ。この後ゴウラ、ルーン使いなら意味がわかろうよ。
その陣を敷いた戦士に敗走は許されず、その陣を見た戦士に退却は許されない。我ら赤枝の騎士に伝わる一騎打ちの大金塊だ。
That is the real reason behind the magic that Lancer cast. The Lady Magus resumes her battle pose. The spearman grips the cursed lance tightly with both hands. The air freezes. Lancer's noble phantasm is eagerly awaiting for its master's call. And on the other side, 10 meters away from him, a lead-colored sphere is floating behind the Lady Magus's figure. This is a mystery of Bazet Fragamagrametz, the sword Fragarak from the Age of Gods. Lancer is well aware of its abilities, and it also concluded that its limitless countering power cannot be defeated. Yet having made that judgment, his grip does not weaken.
その心臓。
The spearman's arms ripple with strength. It is not a throw. Lancer's own body becomes one with the spear.
アンサラ。
The sphere starts expanding. The sword of the gods, protected by a mysterious force and a certain concept, locks onto the spearman's heart.
もらい受ける。
The leap and revelation of the true name, all in the same instant. The first to take the air was the cursed red spear, Gay Bol.
甘く見たな、サーバント。
Fragrak, the sword that alters light, rises to intercept it. The oath of Athengabo leaves no room for hesitation. Both are aiming to destroy the enemy with their greatest strike. The points cross. An attack that means death to both of them. The spearman does not have a shield to deflect the sword, and the mages cannot dodge the lance. However, if they are to strike each other simultaneously, the Lady Magus will come out unharmed. Just by a little. Should the Magus' sword hit its target just a little sooner, the battle will be decided that very instant. Fragarak, the sword that alters light. What this sword gouges out isn't the enemy's heart. It severs the fate of mutual destruction. It is a cursed sword of certain victory. Because of this, it is impossible for Fragarak to attack first. The enemy has to use its trump card before that. That is the prerequisite for releasing Fragarak. The enemy will always move first. Accordingly, even if Fragarak defeats the enemy in one blow, the Lady Magus will simultaneously be destroyed by the opponent's noble phantasm. What sounds like a certain kill is a mutual attack made with the premise of one's own death. However, Bazet's sword reverses all of that. It is released immediately after the activation of the enemy's noble phantasm. Yet no matter how fast the opposing weapon is, it will always reach its target first, taking the enemy's life. A noble phantasm that delivers the final blow in a needle-thin concentrated blast. That alone deserves praise. But its truly dreaded power lies in a special ability. That which comes later cuts first. Like that second name implies, Fragarak warps the idea of cause and effect, rewriting its own attack as the event that occurred first. And the result. No matter how great a noble phantasm may be, the dead cannot use it. The one who is killed first cannot counterattack. Fragrak is a mystic code that exaggerates this fact. It is a conceptual curse that distorts fate. That weapon is a cursed sword of reversal that can nullify any attack. With time as its blade, this trick of the gods has no equal. And therefore, Lancer, who released his spear first, will not be accepted from this curse. The sword of the war god is approaching. Once Fragarak is let loose, it cannot be stopped. The moment he used Gay Bold against Fragarak, he had already lost. The spearman is well aware of this. To survive an attack made by the sword of the war god, one needs to possess an auto-resurrecting noble phantasm or more than one life. In other words, something that is resurrected after being killed will be Fragarak's natural enemy. Of course, Lancer does not have anything of the sort. The spearman knew the conclusion of the battle he entered before it even started. At that time, for only a split second, he thought he saw the man in front of him waver.
言いたかないんだけどさ、割と切羽詰まってんだわこっち。時間制限があるとは思っていなかった。
He had no way of understanding what it meant. Only,
頼むよ。このままだとつまらない結果になる。彼女がそういう風になるのは嫌なんだ。
that man's complaint was one he had experienced as well. It's an old story. Perhaps I wanted to be killed by your hands. In a serene voice, as in a prayer, the witch from the realm of shadows smiled. Oddly enough, that's when he received his demonic spear. The witch was no longer human. She had excelled too much as a warrior, been too knowledgeable in sorcery, and slain too many men, gods, and spirits. The woman who had been only the great teacher of that Hound of Kulan, the woman who had been the only teacher that the Hound of Kulan ever looked up to had been saddled with a fate where even her own death was out of reach. The witch's realm will one day be sundered from the mortal world, reduced to a land of the dead. The reward for a human that came too close to godhood was ascension to a plane that is neither of this world or the next. What a predicament. I suppose I should have died before I became this way. In the gloomy castle's garden, the witch laughed. It was the same hearty laugh that he was so fond of. That the beloved disciple, still but a youth, had finally arrived at the castle by the shortest route. Even so. If only you were born a little earlier. Young. Still so young. The witch chuckled. The beloved disciple accepted it as a mature warrior.
悪かったな。
He had intended to live fast, but
どうやら寄り道が過ぎたようだ。
as a man, he had left the woman he loved until it was too late, and regretted it. The war god's sword pierces the spearman's chest. Sharp pain, a feeling he had almost forgotten, briefly fills him with energy. Strength flows into the crumbling fist again. The spear is left behind but one regret. The demonic spear only ever took away the lives of his loved ones. His one and only close friend, his son that grew up in a distant foreign land. But before that, it was meant to kill a single woman. Thinking back, he spent his whole life getting sidetracked. One person is not a substitute for another, but if doing so will save someone, then he might as well accomplish now what he regretted not being able to in his youth. His lips curl into a resolute grin. The spearman grimaces as his heart is torn apart and...
ああ。しかし、どうしてこういい女にばっかり縁がないのかね。
though late in doing so, he complains about his fate.
取った。
And so the lady mages is confident in her victory. The sword of the war god has hit its target before the enemy's lance. At that moment, the enemy's attack became an impossible event that will disappear back in time. This is the world's fundamental law. A natural result, protected by the absolute order that is time. Yet there is another law for her to learn. A concept may be defeated by another concept. The spearman is no exception to the curse of time either. But his spear is... Yup. I say, once launched, Gaybolg will always hit its target's heart. That's another law. it ruptures. Like a flash of lightning, the sharp tip pierces through her rib cage. The moment it shoots through the heart, the spear becomes 1,000 sharp thorns, destroying the female magus' body from within. Her body breaks open. Pain and surprise force out her sealed memories. Fragorak may be the curse that alters the order of events, but this spear is a weapon that truly reverses the cause and effect itself. The moment its true name is revealed, Gaybolg has already pierced the enemy's heart. Thus, even going back in time to kill its master is useless. For a spear that had already held the piercing of the adversary's heart as the result, even the death of its master will not prevent this duty from being fulfilled. Yeah, that's how it was. Her dying brain cannot recognize the enemy in front of her eyes. Yet, this was a clash between two opposing rules. This man is the only opponent in this world that would revert it to the natural order.
あんたに別れは言っていなかった。
She notices the spearman before her. A little far. Even if she reaches out as far as she can, she would just barely fail to reach him.
忘れ物だ。これはあんたに返しておく。
The spear is pulled out. With a clank, something hard drops to the ground. Unable to keep upright, the magus' body collapses. She falls over into a pool of her own blood. With her pupils already fading, she finds the earring carved from ore rolling on the ground. She remembers it. She remembers it, so she manages to reach out and grasp it tightly. This action uses up half her remaining life, but the feeling of the stone in her palm makes her happy enough for it to be worth it. Lying on the ground, she tries to reach into her pocket, but her arms can no longer move. She cannot take out the amulet she stowed away. She doesn't understand what she's trying to say herself, but the fact that she can't show what's inside her pocket fills her with so much sorrow. She becomes that much further away from understanding. The spearman is leaving. Eyes full of sorrow, the magus happily repeats again and again.
私持ってるの持ってるの持ってるの持ってる
10 seconds later, even that has stopped. All told, it took 1 minute. Lancer's prediction was painfully accurate. Holy shit.
割り合わねえ。
Stepping away from Bazette's corpse, Lancer lets out a heavy sigh. He is using his spear like a walking stick to support his blood-stained body. In any case, the outcome is clear. The only one left is Bazette's servant, Avenger. Without his master, he shouldn't put up too much of a fight.
お見事。で、俺とやる気力は残ってるか、ランサー。
残ってる。と言いたいが。ほら、なんだ。こっちの問題で無理そうだな。
Lancer's body is fading away. The battle between Fragorak and Gaybolg was one of mutual destruction. Each received a blow, so there's no reason why Lancer would be the only survivor.
悪いな。あとは好きにやってくれ。だいたい俺の仕事はここまでだろ、小僧。
This must be a true man's spirit. Muttering something about losing face, he soon disappears. But what now? Bazette, thought to be the one reproducing the Holy Grail War, is now defeated. There's no dramatic change yet, but we should be freed from the binds of these 4 days at dawn.
まさか。バゼットを殺したところで聖杯戦争は終わらない。何しろ、俺がいる限り何度でも蘇るからな、そいつは。
The shadow laughs. His master is dead, yet Avenger seems to be unaffected.
お前は、まあ待て。そう張り切るな。せっかくバゼットを殺したんだ。 とっておきのショータイムが待ってるぜ。
The moon has dyed black. All of a sudden, those beasts have gathered around the church. Failed, failed, failed.
ってなんだこいつら全然やる気がない。
The beasts aren't moving an inch. Their glittering eyes are transfixed not on me, but on the servant. Delighted by the failure of another, distorted by the perverted glee. Yes, yes, again, failed again.
ちきしょう。マスターを失ったからな。俺も奴らの仲間入りかよ。
Spoken like a condemned criminal, terrified of the ultimate punishment. I don't want this, he says. The servant genuinely begs me to help. Then, with a tearing sound, he transforms into a hideous monster. Yes, yes, yes.
お前は一体
He's the same. The servant Avenger's entire body is melting, morphing into the shape of one of those beasts.
こうして俺は失敗する。よく見ておけ、エミヤシロ。これが正体だ。俺は無限に失敗する。この俺がいる限り、聖杯戦争が終わることはない。
You too, you too, you too. His body is shivering. The thing that used to be Avenger, despite being terrified by the surrounding beasts and bleeding profusely all over its body, holds onto its sanity and continues to cry out.
いいか。天の杯に至れ。虚無を埋めろ。やめろ。聖杯を満たせ。やめろ。やめろ。可能性を皆殺しにしろ。やめろやめろやめろ。見えない見えない。もう何も見えない。そうだ。本物の俺を殺しに来い。やめて。来ないでよ。殺しに来たら殺してやる。
The black shadow is being devoured by the beasts. The ceremony did not take much time. The beasts are disappearing one by one, and then finally in its place, lacking all signs of intelligence, a new hideous creature is crouching in front of me. Our eyes meet. The creature tilts its head curiously, then hops into the bushes like a frog. I'm the only one left in the square. Bazette's body has disappeared without a trace as well. Returned to the first day, probably.
天の杯
The words are familiar. Heaven's Cup. In the Holy Grail War 6 months ago, there was a little girl that went by that name. That should be the last piece of this puzzle. On that day, awaiting its end with the break of dawn, in the winter castle where the little girl waits, the last path will be revealed. Okay. The winter castle, the Holy Grail awaits. Learn the truth. So we need to go see Ilya. There's a hole in my chest. Something warm is spilling out of the wound, and something cold invades me in its place. A dreadful yet calming feeling. This is death. I feel a little pain and a little comfort in this peaceful darkness. It was 8 days before the beginning of the 5th Holy Grail War. I arrived in the city of Fuyuki and began preparing for the battle. After learning the topography of the location, I decided on the hiding place that would become my base. With everything perfectly prepared, I summoned a servant. Unlike all the work I've done until now, this process made my heart swing. It was not the joy and anticipation of fighting. 2 things happened that made me happy for the first time. About my duties. You told me to cross the ocean. You said to travel around the wide open world. Uncertain of myself, I asked in trepidation if he was in any way dissatisfied with having to form a contract with me. To which the servant I summoned replied,
昔一度だけ女戦士と肩を並べて戦ったことがあってな。あんたにはあの女の面影がある。
His laughter felt so good it made my unease feel ridiculous. It's not that I was betrayed. It's just that they had unshakable hearts from the very beginning. I was all show, and never decided on the self that every person must have by the time they reach adulthood. I never had any confidence. Focusing entirely on forging the armor of my autonomous self, I was never able to forge my living self. My inner self, weak and cowardly, I have been disappointed by the world ever since the moment I was born. You go through each day as if it was work, my father used to say. That's because I had given up. I was unable to hope, and by having no hope I let every day pass me by. But that's because I was scared of everything. In truth, I wanted to be rewarded more than anyone else, and yet I continued deceiving myself, pretending to be wise. In truth, I could have enjoyed those days like an ordinary person would, yet I continued averting my eyes because I would lose it all one day. In truth, being like this is so easy. I want to overcome this weakness so much, that I've accepted that I can't bear, that I'll live out my life, to live my life, feeling this miserable, feeling so miserable. To be honest, I didn't want to die. And then I fall down to this place. The hell I kept on tasting with every repetition. The bottom of the pot made solely from the resentment and hatred of the dead for all living beings. Being here is painful. It cannot possibly be compared with the previous sense of peace. Having suffered through death already, I feel like I'll lose my mind having to suffer here afterwards. It lasts for but a few minutes before revival, yet this feeling still makes me nauseous every time. The first time I experienced it, I called it hell.
あれが地獄と呼ばれる地点なのかはわからない。ただおぞましく汚らしかった。意識のある者にはあれは最低の土窟です。
But that's not right. This is not hell. This is not the place the dead fall down to. My hell, and my rebirth, was the peace I felt a while ago. That's why this is... I had realized it long ago. His...
そうなんだ。参ったな。俺は特別感じないけど、気がついたらここにいるって感じで。
This is where he came from. The way the thing called Angramanyu was before putting on its disguise. It is the place where he remained before forming a contract with me. And this is where he will return once our contract ends. This false world. Yet there is no pain in it for him. A place that is nothing but suffering to a human like me does not bother him in the slightest. This memory is his everyday life. Prison, plunder, abuse, contempt, an eternal void. And at the end of the suffering, having affirmed the ugly side of humanity, a selfless trance. No happiness, no sadness, not to mention suffering. Nothing exists there. It is the pure land. This was the life of a certain youth, said to be the epitome of all the evil in the world. But all that blank space is already starting to get filled. Once the picture is finished, he will simply return to that place. No matter how artificial it may be, this Holy Grail War is his ideal world. I don't trust the likes of him anymore. But I wonder why he's trying to make this wish end. I wake up from my slumber. It was the most vivid death I had until now, Yet I also feel calmer than ever before. No, maybe they're just frozen solid. Both my reason and emotion. The way I am now, I can do anything, no doubt.
よう、起きたか、マスター。落ち着いているようで何よりだ。
Same as always, I can see Avenger's figure in the corner of the room, occupied with a puzzle. It's getting on my nerves. He's supposed to be my familiar, yet he does nothing the way I want him to. If you're originally a formless shadow, how about I lock you up in an insect cage?
お、まだやる気満々みたいだな。打たれ強いね、実際。元サーバントに殺されたっていうのに、全然答えてないみたいだ。
Wicked laughter. A flame lights up again in my chilled mind. What I can't let slide is his loose manners. It's this air of a villain that he assumes.
なぜですか、ハンリマユ。この聖杯戦争は私だけの望みではない。いえ、今では私以上に望む者がいるはずだ。私にはわからない。私たちの望みは同じなのに、どうして終わらせようとするのです。
I shout with clenched fists. More than why I had been betrayed, I want to know how he feels. And yet...
飽きた。つまんねえ。
He utters right away. Up until now, I've done nothing short of a stellar job of hiding my own emotions.
アベンジャー。
そう睨むなよ。ほら、あんたもいい加減満足しただろ。念願の聖杯戦争を楽しんで、大抵の顛末を味わった。けどさ、ここにはあんたに必要だったものは何一つなかった。まあ、なんだ。俺から切り出すのは使い魔としてルール違反なんだが、そろそろいいだろう。契約を破棄しようぜ、マスター。それで、この話はおしまいだ。
Knowing full well what it means, Avenger holds out his hand. I cannot do this. I've crossed paths with many up until this point, but once I've taken another's hand, I can never let go.
アベンジャー。あなた、まだ私が見えている。
Avenger's body wavers ever so slightly. As I thought. He has all but returned to the void already.
言っておきますが、私はこの聖杯戦争を止めるつもりはありません。元の死体に戻るなど真っ平だ。
そうか。マスターがそう言うなら契約は続けるしかない。しかし、こうなると聖杯戦争の本当の勝者に、また聖杯を壊してもらうしかないか。
そんなことできるわけが。
できるよ。あいつは一度やってるからな。言っただろう。これは第5回目の再現なんだって。聖杯を壊したやつが聖杯までたどり着いたら、そりゃ壊れても不思議はないさ。
そう。それが。
Avenger's last trump card. No, it's the final act before the curtains fall, planned from the very beginning.
アベンジャー。
ん？
I pin the black shadow to the wall.
もっと早くからこうすればよかった。あなたは私のサーバントなのに言うことを聞かなすぎた。
I leave no room for a counterattack. I'll use a command spell right now, and there's no cage around to confine him in? Ah, in that case.
お前なんて私の左腕にでもなってしまえ。
With this, he can no longer go out and meet the winner of the Holy Grail War on his own. I don't want to die. I don't want to kill him either. Therefore, from here on, I will protect the Holy Grail.
契約は破棄しない。アンリ、 この世界を止めるというなら、あなたであろうと私の敵だ。
Come, let us continue the Holy Grail war. The Holy Grail is mine. This wish is mine. I won't let anyone destroy them. Next, Hollow Ataraxia. Alright. Oh, another round with Karen. There's nothing to do with the church. And Miyashiro should have no more unfinished business over there.
まあ、今さら寄り道の一つや二つ変わらないか。
I'll just waste some time. Everything just piled on one after another so quickly. Both my mind and body are fatigued. Might be a poor motive, but I'll have that woman impart me with some of her vitality again. The music abruptly stops. Karen vacantly stares at me as if she had just seen a ghost.
なんで中断するかな。今までやめたことなんて一度もなかったのに。
Returning her stare, I take my usual seat. Having come all this way, even this pew is comfortable.
おい、続きどうした？いつもみたいに構わずやってくれ。終わるまで待ってるから。
I throw out a few jeers.
いえ、話があるのでしたら、すぐそちらに伺います。
That's rare. You're telling me this antisocial woman actually had the capacity to be considerate this whole time? Though I would have liked her to have shown it on the first or second visit. Right now, having my needs attended to just bothers me. Someday I'm going to teach her how to read the mood if I ever get the opportunity.
エネルギー不足なんでムカムカしたいんだ。気にせず日課を続けてくれ。
演奏は続けますが、それはどういう意味でしょうか？
Oops, doesn't seem that she liked the expression, get worked up.
元気が出るってことなんだが、あんたのオルガンはちょうどいい充電になる。聞いてると頭がビリビリするからな。
Unsatisfied, Karen turns back to the organ. Apparently, she can't understand how getting worked up and shocks are related. In any case, the performance resumed. Life is breathed into the non-existent organ once again. Her thin fingers covered in wounds touch the keyboard. For the fourth time, the grating melody reverberates in the chapel. Surprisingly, it feels like it's different than before. Perhaps because the performer's fingers are filled with passion. The waves of sound that were only vaguely irritating before now clearly stimulate my nerves. Just like that, I clearly feel my irritation turn to anger, and finally the rationality I decorated myself with dissolves. Is there nothing you find beautiful? That woman said something like that. My feelings like that had long since gone away. I feel at ease now. All I need to do is see things for what they are. Having personal sentiments is a burden in many ways. And yet, why? Stop screwing around. A glimpse of a strange landscape flashes before my eyes. I don't understand its significance. Just a desolate wasteland, a summit far above the ground where the air is thin. But why do I recall that now? An irrelevant thought that would not fade even if cast away. It's not just the feeling of hatred that remains, but the scenery that has burned into my eyes as well. Stop screwing around. Why am I remembering this kind of place? There shouldn't be anything. There shouldn't be anything there. Nothing. I can't let my heart waver. It's too late now. I can't allow myself to embrace something like sentimental thoughts. It's not like the past will change just because I remember it. I mustn't turn it into something beautiful out of some mistaken sentiment, some mistaken fantasy. I affirm the things the way they are. I mustn't think that things which aren't mine belong to me just because of nostalgia. Your pride is in having nothing. Your meaning is in being nothing. When you fabricate something that doesn't even exist, you become no different from a meaningless sacrifice. Even so, it's still true. It's true that nothing existed here. But hadn't I wished for there to be meaning in that? Her performance is over before I knew it. As far as my goal of regaining some vitality goes, I can't help but say it was a letdown. And then I realized Karen is standing in front of me. Now that I think about it, does she want something from me?
あなたがここに来ることはもうないと思っていました。
同感。なんでかな。きっと気の迷いだったんだ。元気が出ると思ったのに脱力させられたし。
自分で続けろと言ったのに。私の演奏はお気に召しませんか？
そうだな。技術レベルじゃ文句はないぜ。その包帯だらけの体でよく体力が続くもんだ。正直感心する。って待てよ。あんた実はオルガンの演奏すごくうまい？
人語に落ちぬ自負はあります。自身の取り柄を鍛えるのは私の趣味です。
珍しく強気じゃんか。そうか。あんたうまかったのか。
I've done something rude. What would she do if I'd said I'd been appreciating it with the same mindset as watching a school play?
理解していただけて幸いです。ついでに私の演奏のどこがお気に召さないのかを聞きたいのですが。
どこって聞いてると眠くなるところ。電気使えとは言わねえけど、もっとわざとらしいほど盛り上げてくれないと。あと何でもかんでも受け入れるような芸風もつまらない。もう少し反社会的なシャウトを聞かせてほしい。
Want to hear her do rock music? And it'd be perfect if you had some heavy distortion.
それは私ではなく曲が悪いということでは？加えて聴いている人間の感性も悪いかと。
何？マナー悪いのかこの観客。
言語に接するほどに私の語彙では言い表せるものがありません。
I turn away and try not to laugh. I thought this was a hard woman to understand, but I see. She acts like this when you poke at something she's proud of.
何か？
いや、込み上げてきたものを我慢しただけ。あんた割と機関棒だよな。音楽の先生もしつけるのにさぞ苦労したろう。
あなたの基準で私を決めつけないでください。それとあなたには私の生い立ちを語ったはずです。私は孤立しているのですから。音楽は独学だと思わないのですか？
いるだろう、音楽の先生ぐらい。あんたの音には正しい規律がある。何人もの手を渡って受け継がれてきた演奏者の意志みたいなものだ。あんたのオルガンは自分のためのものじゃないだろう。あんたの演奏は多くの人間のために編み込まれた普遍的な音楽だ。
Only technique can be refined through self-study. A genius can't construct a concept that transcends time. If those who shine through their talent are the flowers of the tree, then those who shine through their heritage become the trunk and nurture the tree.
ま、そんな小難しい話以前に、上達したいなら人に教えてもらうのが一番手っ取り早い。世間体より合理性の方を優先したんだろうさ。機関棒ってのはそういうこと。あんたは本当に好きなもののためなら最善を尽くすタイプだと思うんだが。
あなたの推測にはうなずけませんが、音楽を学ぶために特例として時間と指導者を用意していただきました。何かと問題はありましたが。
ほら、怒られてもめげないっていうか、あんまりダメージいかないっていうか。あんたは根っこのところに 他人じゃ動かせないものがあるんだよ。自分がないなんてよく言ったもんだ。ほんと教会の神父ってのはどいつもこいつも甲賀にできているんだな。
Wicked laughter. Huh? What's putting me in such a good mood? I don't know if it's because of the entertainment or if it's because I'm feeling a bit careless. I'm getting a bit high. On the other hand, she became stiff and stood still. Seems that something had struck home for her, too.
そんなに高顔でしょうか。
ああ、ここの前任者といい勝負。
She looks a bit stiff as she searches for words. I observe this rare moment of clumsiness. Perhaps I'm in an uplifting mood because my senses have been relaxed. The desires I've pretended to not see until now begin to pulse in unison with my heartbeat. There's a subtle sound like the tearing of thin vinyl. The scent of blood spills out from the bottom of her vestments.
どうした？生理か？
傷が開いただけです。申し訳ありませんが、
そうだな。一つ後ろにずれるわ。
There we go. I moved to the seat behind me. Now that I'm a bit further away, the scent of blood is fainter.
けどあんたも大変だね。傷が開いたって、まだ夜の街を徘徊してるんだ。ってそうか。4日目の夜には律儀に俺を探してるんだっけ？
そうです。聖杯戦争の再現が終わるまで4日目の夜は街に出なくてはいけません。もっとも疲れているのはそれだけではありませんが、最近悪魔払いの真似事も始めましたので。
へえ。
I wasn't actually paying attention. To be honest, just because the smell of blood is fainter now doesn't mean that I'm completely in control. For instance, my eyes are fixated on the wounds hidden by those white bandages, by those slender arms and shoulders that seem as if they'd break just by being held down, or even by her white belly wet with blood that surely is fresh and in season like those sweet fish skewers.
本職の調子はいいのか？
いいえ、これが全く。今まで多くの悪魔払いをこなしてきたけど、弱音を言ってしまえば今回のようなケースは初めてです。
そいつ手強いんだ。
Red blotches surface on her bandages. Luscious. Raw. I thought that she was like a doll, but she was plenty fresh and rare.
強いか弱いかで言えば低級の部類に入るでしょう。でも一つだけ今までと違うところがあって、だってこの悪魔は私に厳しいんだもの。
はあ？悪魔が厳しいのは当たり前じゃないのか？
いいえ、基本的に悪魔は優しいのです。その結果はどうあれ、彼らは人の苦悩を理解し取り除こうとする架空要素。見ようによっては人間の味方ですから、間違っても人間を叱ったりはしないのです。
I feel like she's tempting me. Her hands are folded in prayer, fingers intertwined, her wounded body. Reminds me of... And yet this is something dedicated to God, not intended to be offered to a demon. Someone who does nothing but accept things as they are. A convenient sacrifice that accepts sin without reason. Oh. This is bad. If I don't switch out of this mind, this impulse will end up breaking down my shell.
どうしたの？体調が乱れているようだけど。
いや、ちょっと貧血。それより今の話、初めてのケースってことは、つまり面白い？
全然予想外のことばかりで、どちらかというと腹立たしいわ。そうね、正直うんざりしてきたかも。自分から介入したことだけど私の手には負えそうにないし、この辺りで引き上げていいかしら？
別に あんたの好きにすればいい。なんだよ、秋っぽいなとか無責任だなとか言ってないぞ俺。
それはそうだけど、ほら厳しいじゃない。
Harsh, she says. This is the first time I've been told that. I think I've been told before that I'm someone who's patient and someone who's impatient. Which one is called which? I still can't switch. This one is a formidable opponent. Wonder whether she can see me with those golden eyes. This isn't possible. To think that my cocoon is on the verge of collapse with just 4 encounters.
もしかして本気にしましたか？
え？
I look up at her.
申し訳ありません。少し私もあなたをからかってみたくなったのです。ご心配なく、途中で投げ出すことはありません。私が自分に課した役割はあなたを導くことですから。
ああ、そういえばもともと情報を交換する間柄だったっけ。1回目は助かったけど2回目以降は役に立たないんで忘れてた。
それはあなたが関係のない話をするからです。重要な話をしてもらえれば私とて意見は返せます。
そうなんだけど。
There's nothing left I should ask about. The relationship between Emiyashiro and Karen had already been settled by the 3rd visit.
悪いけどもうほとんど終わっているんだ。さっきの話だけど実際あんたはもう引き上げて構わないんじゃないかな。本職の方はそうだな、諦めて次の獲物を見つけてくれ。
That's the end of it. Soon even this relation will come to an end.
愚問と分かってはいますが、あなたはそれでいいのですか？
いいに決まってる。そのためにいろいろやってきたんだが。
それはあなたの意志で。あなたはどうしてこの願いを解決しようとするのです？
決まってるだろ。俺はエミヤシロウだからな。一度ぐらいは人助けをしてみたいんだ。
I have no doubts. My answer from the 2nd visit was what I truly, sincerely believe. I take my leave. I want to think that even being able to say those words just now made this time meaningful. Wait.
待って。
Oh. I can't hang around here any longer. Without pause, I head for the door.
あなたは虚無よ。生まれていないもの、未知のものがある限りあり続ける。
There aren't many gaps left. Might as well fill them in quickly.
けど、すべてが生まれてしまったら、あなたの居場所はどこにもない。この日常が埋まっていけばいくほど、
I'm not losing it. It's just that
世界への関心を失って元の無に戻るのよ。
I'll revert to my original proper form. That's all. So yeah, I think it's abundantly clear that that's not Shiro. The person who's talking to Karen is not him. Just wanna... Oh, there's something new here. What's new here? Alone and with Saber. At the church. You know what? For now, I'm just gonna skip these. 'Cause I don't think that's particularly important. So I think we just have to go to the 4th day again, and then we'll be able to talk to Ilya. So I'll end things off here for today, and I'll see you all in the next one. Alright. Bye!